Think we are good to go here. I'm just gonna check in the group and see if we actually are live, and then we'll go ahead and get going.
Just got a beep. My phone just dinged.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so something's happening.
All
Don't know what it is, but we're here. It's live.
right, awesome. Well, we'll just hang out for a minute and wait for a couple people to hop on. I've got it here on my phone, so I'll be able to see when people are
Sweet.
starting to watch. Oh man, it's been a heck of a week so far, I'll tell
It's
you.
been, yeah, it's been crazy.
All right, make sure yep, we're live. There you go. Can you
We're
guys hear us
live.
and everything? You want to give us a shout if you can hear us?
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Thumbs up or thumbs down, whatever. Just let us know you're there.
Yep. All right, we've got a couple different people that are on. I'm sure more will start hopping on in a minute. Usually takes a couple minutes for people to get the notification.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, people are on, liking it and watching.
Sweet. Let's do it.
Thanks, Roy. All right, awesome. So I'm George Coker. My company is Brand North. We're a digital marketing agency that focuses on concrete contractors. I've got Jeremy here, proud owner of Treasure Coast Concrete Polishing, and yeah, we're just gonna kind of talk about your business and everything that's going on. So thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm super happy to be here with you. We've been talking for several weeks now, and this kind of just sprouted on us. But it's ironic because you're trying to create something memorable, something unique to help other people, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But with employees and the business, it's been pretty crazy, but I appreciate you having me on this. I've never done anything like this, so bear with me here.
Yeah, don't sweat it. To be honest with you, I've never done anything like this before either. Actually started a group when this whole pandemic thing first happened. That was just for like my local. It was just for my local city where I live, and I started a group basically just to support small business owners. And I brought some local business owners on so they could talk about what they're doing and how people can support them during everything. And mostly restaurants, just to help them get some more business and stuff. But point is, I just did this for the first time just about 3 months ago, so you don't have to sweat it.
Well, I think what you're doing is really awesome. And mainly for the guys that don't say anything, let's face it, we all started from somewhere. We all started at day one. And when we were at day one, we didn't know anything. And it's hard when you don't have a voice or you not quite sure what to say, because you don't want anybody to make fun of you, or you aren't 100% sure that you even know what you're talking about. And I still don't, but I try. I think we all try. And
Yeah, I agree, man. That's kind of the point of this, is just to share information and hopefully somebody gets something out of it, and it helps somebody along the way. I mean, whenever you start a business, no matter what industry you're in, like course, there's classes out there. There's other people that are successful. You want to learn as much as you can from them, but there's never an exact roadmap. Otherwise, everybody would be successful, right? So this is just kind of share what's going on with your company, and hopefully somebody picks something up from it, and then we'll have some more people on, and maybe we'll all pick something up from somebody else. So
Absolutely. Well, let's do it. Yeah. Whatever
cool.
we can do.
So yeah, just a couple quick questions. So how long have you been doing this for? How long have you owned the company?
So this is our 8th year in business so far. So
Awesome. So let's talk about this year. How's this year been for you so far?
excellent. We started our expansion about 8 months ago, and going into the beginning of the year was fantastic, just like I'm sure a lot of people would say. And then the pandemic broke, and that was a signal for me because I am a survivor. In really bad situations, I thrive. That is my natural tendency to fight instead of flee. And so that's what I did. When it all dropped, I literally called everybody I knew and started talking plans. All right, what are we doing here? What can we do to survive? What do we have to do to make sure jobs are still on the board? Let's take a look at our financials. Let's go ahead and, kind of put a stop on unnecessary spending. So, at that point, obviously numbers went down. We probably lost 25 to 30% of what our estimated earnings would be. But, I'm very happy to say that my secretary actually called me yesterday with our updated numbers for the past 6 months. And we're a little underneath what expectations were going to be, but those expectations were pre-pandemic. So we're really not that far off. So short answer, I'm blessed to still have jobs, for the guys still be working. And I'm extremely happy that I still have some extremely good guys and women who are working for me. And we've all stuck together, and we're beating it. So, I wasn't going to let this one take me down. And so that's my story.
Awesome. So yeah, it sounds like you've said this to me just, a couple of different times that you're really lucky to have the team that you have and everything. So you want to talk about just like going backwards, like how you were able to, I know it wasn't a straight line, but where you started and how that like gradually came together so that now you do have that team that you can depend on and feel a little bit more comfortable even when crazy stuff happens like this pandemic.
Okay. So long story short, I used to be a screen installer, a screen enclosure installer, building those large screen enclosures over pools. They protect you from bugs. It was a great business. I owned a business, my first business when I was 22, doing that. And then, all hell broke loose in my life. I ended up making some bad decisions, and I'm sure everybody knows, but it was rough back then. So anyway, moving forward, I was working for a company building screen enclosures, and I was on a job site, and this guy says, "Hey, have you ever heard of polished concrete?" I said, what in the world is polished concrete? This guy says, "Oh man, it's one of the fastest growing construction trades now." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds cool, So, I'm huge on opportunity. I love to listen to people. I love to come up with ideas. I like to act on ideas. So I went home immediately that night and I jumped on a computer and started looking at equipment, started looking at floors, and I said, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Wow, like I've never seen anything like this before. So, not but a few minutes later, I called Chris Lavin at Extreme Polishing Systems, my good buddy. And, this was 8 years ago, by the way. So I called him and he spent probably an hour and a half on the phone with me answering every question I had. God bless his heart, because I had a lot of them. And so at the end of the conversation, I was super pumped. Anyway, I ended up going down to his warehouse down in Pompano probably a week later to view the facility. Me and at that time, my business partner. So I got there and met him, walked the facility, looked at all of his stuff, all the, very, very well put together program. And I took a look and I met some of his people, and I was extremely impressed. So I went home. I asked my mother-in-law for a loan for $10,000. My mother-in-law went to the bank that week, got me a $10,000 check, and told me, Jeremy, I know I have all the faith in you. I know how you are. You will make this happen. So she handed me that $10,000. The next week, I was down back at Extreme Polishing Systems. I bought an entire setup, a grinder, a hand grinder, all the pads, some stain, and I took my trailer, which I also bought at the time from Chris, and I went back home. I unloaded that grinder and I started doing my mother-in-law's garage, because that was the only job I had. I had no other job set up, but it didn't matter to me. So I started doing her garage, and I was literally on the phone for every single step of the way. What do I put on next? 100 grit? What do I do next? Was it 150, 200? I was talking to Chris Razor. I'll never forget it. And he coached me through, and come to find out, when I was putting the diamonds on, I was putting 30 grit traps with 70 grit traps. Like, I had no clue that a diamond blade had even a grit level. So I'm just throwing these random diamond blades on my new yellow Genie. And so that was my first job. But moving forward, to make a long story short, my primary way for getting jobs back then to begin with was Craigslist. And it worked. I got garages, I got houses. I just started reaching out on social media, doing all the free paid links, Twitter, just the Better Business Bureau, inserting our business name into literally everything that you could do. Me and my wife were doing that. So moving forward all these years has been crazy, to say the least.
Always not easy. Once you get the jobs, getting the jobs is difficult sometimes, right? But it sounds like you did the footwork, but then actually being able to keep up with all the work and have a dependable team is a whole nother side to it.
Yeah. And, not to mention the fact that I never had any real training. I didn't do this for a job before I started. That was probably the most difficult part. It's not like I worked for a company for a couple years and then decided, oh, I'm going to go start my own business, and went into a business with any type of skill. I had no skill at the beginning. So unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way, which 8 years later, I guess I'm appreciative of it, because I know what not to do. So I could literally tell you every phase of a job and say, you better not do this or else this is going to happen. And now is a great time to talk about that. A few years ago was not. And the amount of stress every single night that I had to endure, the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the just not knowing what was going to happen the next day, not knowing if I was going to be able to get those scratches out, or if the stain was going to stay in the concrete, or if I was going to be able to get my pump sprayer to work, or if I was going to have enough material, did I measure right, have enough epoxy on. So those were just a few of the challenges I had to deal with throughout the years. But it was for a purpose, so I'm grateful for that purpose. I'm grateful for what I went through.
So I think that some of the things that you've done or like will really resonate with people, even now that you have all of that 8 years of experience of doing this, doing the work, and as an owner to know whether you're making money or not, right? It seems like now you've implemented a lot more systems into your business, and there are some things that you could probably do to make money on, but you pass on sometimes, right? You want to talk about that a little bit and how that's helped you?
Yeah, so that actually happened today. Me and my partner slash wife got a phone call from a company in Jupiter. And the guy says over the phone, hey, what's your price on polish? And I gave him a range. And I said, but let me just come down there and take a look at this job. You're not very far away. Can I go and just can I arrive at your job and just start doing the job? Sure. I've driven to South Carolina without ever looking on a job site and starting a 4,000 square foot Walgreens. I've driven all the way up to Maryland to do a 6,000 square foot JCPenney's sight unseen, all the way to the other side of Tampa. So I was trained to do business that way. It's not a problem because the variables are usually the same for the most part. And every problem has a solution is the way I look at it. So it really doesn't matter what the problem is, we'll figure it out. And that has been my attitude going into it. So anyway, so I went and met with this guy. Come to find out, he lived in an extremely high-end business complex on the second floor with an elevator that was only 4 foot by 3 foot. Yeah, all the painting was complete. The baseboard was painted, completely finished. And this guy tells me he wants to do polished concrete. So I peeled up the carpet. I looked at it. There's a ton of glue. Commercial carpet was a mother effer to pull up, to say the least. I tried and I said, oh boy, this is going to be one of those. So, he asked me, we talked a little bit about the job. I showed him some samples. I asked him, do you want to take a look at my picture book? Because you should have a picture book or something like that to show your customers. And he said, no, I've already did my research. I said, okay, cool, good. So he was short. And anyway, we shook hands, we left. I went home, and actually on the way home, I started speaking to my wife, and I said, hey, look, I know we quoted them at, X amount. I think it was a range from like $450 to $550, $6 a square foot to do the polish. Okay. Not including glue removal, not including carpet removal, so it was never that low to begin with over the phone. I don't do it like that. I think it's actually more important to start higher when you're pre-qualifying, because if you start higher and you give them a reasonable expectation, and that way they can tell you if they're it's in their budget, and then you can go out there knowing that you're not wasting your time. Because let's face it, half of the people that call us have nothing. They have no knowledge of polished concrete, no knowledge of epoxy. The only thing they've seen is some pictures online or some HGTV videos, and it looks super cool, or their friend has it, or so they don't know. And then and the other half of the time they think that it's cheaper than tile, you know. So I try to get all that information out on the first phone call.
Yep.
And I did that with him.
Otherwise, you're just driving around aimlessly. You're just wasting
Exactly.
time driving around.
Right. Exactly. So, make a long story short, so I told my wife, I said, look, first of all, we're not going to be able to get our large propane equipment on that elevator. Okay. I said, we're going to have to use our smaller equipment, which that's going to, decrease our productivity. It's going to take probably twice as long to do that. In fact, it definitely will take twice as long. My SACE propane does, on average, 800 to 1,000 square foot an hour of grinding. I'm lucky if I could get my smaller machines, compared, in comparison for their size, they do good, but they don't do 1,000 square foot an hour. So it will double, it's going to double the amount of time it took. So anyway, I explained this to my wife and I said, look, we are going to have to, adjust our numbers, because if we don't, we are going to be mad at ourselves. I know this. Not only that, but their front lobby was marble. The elevator was marble. So immediately that cued me that, hey, we need to put down lots of protective stuff.
Liability.
So you better protect that concrete coming in, because that's how this place is. And in reality, you should always do that anyway. But they're even more particular usually in these scenarios. So I did my bid, and I adjusted my numbers, fairly within market value to justify my increase for the extra work that we were going to have to do. So I submitted my bid, and I even put on a note, look, there's limited access, where we're going to have to limit our machine usage. It's going to take a significant more amount of time and our labor, therefore costing more, okay? So he texts me back not 10 minutes after I got this bid, I don't understand why your price for carpet removal is so expensive. I got guys quoting me 50 cents a square foot to remove carpet. And I said, okay, well, that could possibly happen in a single floor scenario with a Raton floor scraper in thousands of square foot. I could justify that price. However, this is the second floor, no ability to use a Raton scraper. You do not have a dumpster on site, which is going to require us to move all of your flooring directly to the dump, okay? So there's all these added costs on my end, and I have to pass those costs on, He didn't like that very much.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy showed up in a Lamborghini, which is cool. Whatever, man, but
sometimes it's better to pass. You identify it, you lose your shirt on that job.
Right. And I knew that. And my wife, she actually got a little upset with me. She's like, I don't understand. Why can't you just do it for a cheaper price? I said, honey, I've worked for these type of clients before. They demand the world, but are only willing to pay for the state. Okay. So in order to satisfy them, right, you have to be able to provide for them, which means you have to go above and beyond, which means you have to charge for it. Because if you don't and something happens, you're going to have issues. So you got to make sure everything is covered. And it just really wasn't worth it, especially when he told me, well, I'm getting bids for half this price. And I said,
good luck. Call me when it doesn't work out.
I said, if you are getting bids for half the price, that should probably throw a red flag. But have fun with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, hey, that's what happens sometimes. But yeah, I mean, the problem is if you're going doing stuff like that, like you said before, you just drive yourself crazy. It's not
right.
even, it's not worth it at the end of the day. So, all right, man. Well, we've been on for a little bit. You have anything that, just in closing that you want to share that's been able to help you, the rest of the group?
Um, keep your head up. Regardless of how hard it gets, tomorrow's another day. When you go to bed tonight, you'll wake up tomorrow and everything will be different. Every single problem has a solution, and you have a ton of resources. Get to know your suppliers, call and ask them questions. Get in contact with people like George who specialize in certain types of this business, because here's the fact, okay? You can do things the hard way, like I did, and spend 8 years struggling, having fights, going through all these situations that may have been prevented had you went to A, training, B, hired a consultant, or C, got some type of education. So in the beginning, I know it's difficult because it's hard to justify X amount of dollars for something that you cannot prove in the beginning. But I can assure you that if you do your research, you find the appropriate person for consulting or the appropriate business to take the class, and they vet out, then you will get your money back out of it, hands down. And here's a perfect example. I went and did classes at Surecrete for concrete countertops. I only did a 3 or 4 day class. Since I took that class, I've done probably like over 30 concrete countertops since then, precast. Not one issue, not one. Always 100% customer satisfaction. The variables changed. I knew how to prevent the problems.
The class is worth it all day.
It was worth it all day. And
Yeah.
the class cost me at the time, I think it was like $1,500. And my wife wanted to shoot me for it. You're crazy. Why are you going to do that? I said, honey, look, I want to learn how to build concrete countertops. And
what are you charging per countertop? What minimum? I mean, I don't know what a countertop costs, to be honest with you, but whatever it is times 30 is a lot more than $1,500 for the class.
but it's hard for people in the beginning to understand for a couple reasons. One, they don't trust. Two, they don't have the extra funds to do it. At the beginning, and I know this because at the beginning, you want to spend all your money on equipment. You're having to feed your family. You're having to pay the gas. You're having to pay the guys. So $1,500 at the beginning is difficult. But if you could manage to think from a different perspective, forget about that part, but think about the money that you'll save. Think about it like this. One concrete countertop that goes bad for me would cost upwards in the $5,000 to $6,000 range, just in material and labor, if I didn't know that information.
Right.
But because I know the information and I know the problems, I've never had to lose that money. That is not true in the flooring industry for me. I have lost thousands of dollars in mistakes. And I've always paid, and I've paid dearly. And the issues really don't happen anymore. And for a really good reason. But my point is trust guys like George, George hasn't even collected a dime from me yet. He hasn't asked for it. We've talked about it, but he hasn't written me an invoice. But this man has sat on this phone for the last 3 weeks just talking to me and helping me work on my business. That.
Just don't give anybody else my phone number, all right?
Oh, look, man, you know how it works. You help people and they help you.
Yeah.
So that's what we're all about. If we stick together, if we help each other, and we're not afraid to get on the phone call and say, hey, man, what do I do about this? Hey, how do I handle this? None of us are going to turn each other down. And if they do, it was never meant to be.
Yep.
You shouldn't be talking to that person anyway. The people who are going to pick up that phone, and trust me, there's a lot of us, are willing to help. And it's the difference between saving a ton of money. So that would be my closing statement. You know.
Well, it's smart, and you've come a long way from the sounds of it, man. So I appreciate it. I hope everybody else from the group appreciates it. And yeah, we'll chat soon, man. But I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, see you guys. Have a good evening.
Later.
Good night. See you.